You think love is supposed to feel warm. You think it's supposed to grow. You think if you give enough, care enough, show up consistently enough, the person you love will eventually see your value and reciprocate with the same intensity you offer. And maybe for a few months, it does feel that way. But then something shifts. The text gets shorter. The effort becomes one-sided. The affection you once received freely now feels conditional, rationed, something you have to earn again and again, and you don't understand why. You're doing everything right. You're being patient. You're being understanding. You're being there. But the love you thought was building is quietly turning into something else. Resentment. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind. The type that lives in the silences between conversations. The kind that shows up in the way they stop asking about your day. The kind that makes you feel like a burden for wanting what they used to give enthusiastically. You're sitting across from them at dinner and you can feel it. They're present, but not really there. You make a joke, and they smile, but it doesn't reach their eyes. You ask if something's wrong, and they say no, everything's fine, but you know it's not. And the worst part is, you don't see what you did. You've been loyal. You've been supportive. You've been consistent. And somehow, that consistency has become your crime. Schopenhauer understood this. He understood that love, the thing we've been taught to worship as sacred and pure, is not designed to last in the form we want it to. It's intended to deceive. It's designed to bind, and once that binding is complete, once the biological and psychological purpose has been served, the illusion dissolves. What's left is not hatred. It's something worse. It's indifference dressed as familiarity. It's resentment dressed as routine. At work, you watch the same thing happen. The colleague who used to seek your input now barely acknowledges you in meetings. The manager who once praised your contributions now treats your presence as expected, unremarkable part of the furniture. You haven't changed. Your work hasn't declined, but the attention has. Because attention, like love, is not given based on your value. It's given based on scarcity, and you made yourself abundant. You made yourself available. You made yourself predictable, and in doing so, you became invisible. Your friends do it too. The ones who used to call, who used to make plans, who used to want to spend time with you genuinely. Now they reach out when they need something. Advice, a favor, validation. And you give it because you think that's what friendship requires. But when you need them, they're busy, they're distant, they're suddenly unavailable. And you don't say anything because you don't want to seem needy. You don't want to seem like you're keeping score, but deep down you are. Deep down you're starting to feel it. The quiet resentment. Not from them, from you. This is what happens when you are trained to be unhelpful instead of powerful. You were taught that love is earned through effort, that respect is earned through consistency, that value is earned through availability, and all of that is a lie. Love is not earned, it's triggered. Respect is not earned, it's commanded. Value is not earned, it's perceived. And perception is controlled by distance, by scarcity, by the refusal to overgive. Schopenhauer saw through the romantic illusion. He saw that what we call love is nothing more than the will to life using human beings as instruments for its own continuation. The feelings, the attraction, the obsession, all of it is biology masquerading as meaning. And once the biological function is served, once the pair bond is secured, the intensity fades. What replaces it is duty, habit, resentment. Most of you will close this video now. You'll tell yourself this is too cynical, too cold, too dark. You'll convince yourself that your situation is different, that your love is real, that your relationships are built on something more profound. And maybe you're right, or perhaps you're just not ready to see the pattern yet. But if you stay, if you're willing to sit with the discomfort, you'll understand 5 psychological reversals that govern every romantic relationship, every friendship, every dynamic where affection and attention are involved. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. You won't operate the same way again. Put your phone face down and listen. If this hit you, write, "I am the strategist," once in the comments, just to mark the day your mindset changed. You think the problem is that you're not doing enough, that if you just tried harder, communicated better, and showed more affection, the resentment would disappear. But that's not how it works. The resentment didn't appear because you stopped trying. It appeared because you never stopped. You became the person who always shows up, who always texts first, who always initiates, who always adjusts. And in doing so, you handed over your frame. You accepted the role of the pursuer, the one who needs, the one who seeks approval. And once that frame is set, once you've established yourself as the one who chases, the dynamic is locked. They don't resent you because you're difficult. They resent you because you're easy. Schopenhauer wrote that the will, the blind force driving all life, does not care about individual happiness. It cares about continuation, about reproduction, about survival. Love is the mechanism it uses to bind two people together long enough for that continuation to occur. But the emotions involved, the passion, the longing, the obsession, those are temporary. They're bait. And once the trap is sprung, once commitment is secured, the bait is no longer needed. What's left is the reality of two people who are now bound by obligation, by routine, by the slow accumulation of unspoken disappointments. And the person who gave more, who sacrificed more, who adjusted more, becomes the target of that disappointment. Not because they did something wrong, but because they made themselves the one who always bends. You see this in the early stages of every relationship. At first, both people are uncertain. Both people are trying. Both people are putting in effort because neither has complete control yet. But the moment one person shows they're more invested, the moment one person starts doing more, calling more, planning more, the dynamic shifts. The other person relaxes. They stop trying as hard because they no longer have to. You've already shown them they don't need to compete for your attention. You've already shown them you'll stay regardless. And once they know that, once they feel secure in your investment, the resentment begins. Not consciously, not maliciously, but it builds because human beings do not value what they do not have to work for. You thought showing up consistently would make them appreciate you. But consistency without scarcity is not loyalty, it's availability. And availability is not attractive, it's convenient. They don't wake up thinking about you. They wake up knowing you'll be there. And that knowing, that certainty, kills desire. Desire requires uncertainty. It requires distance. It involves the possibility of loss. Schopenhauer understood this. He understood that the romantic ideal we've built around love, the idea that it's pure, eternal, unconditional, is a delusion. Love is conditional. It's transactional. And the moment the transaction feels one-sided, resentment takes root. You're texting them and they take hours to respond. You make plans and they cancel at the last minute. You ask for their time and they're suddenly busy. But when they need something, when they need comfort, attention, validation, you're expected to provide it immediately. And you do, because you think that's what love requires. But what you're actually doing is training them to see you as a resource, not a person. As a utility, not a priority. And the more you accept that role, the more you reinforce it. You've stepped into their frame. You've accepted their evaluation. You've made yourself the one who serves while they decide whether you're serving well enough. This is the first reversal. The more you give without requiring reciprocity, the less they respect what you offer. Generosity without boundaries is not love, it's self-abandonment, and people do not respect those who abandon themselves. They may accept it. They may benefit from it, but they do not appreciate it. And without respect, love turns into resentment. Quiet, gradual, inevitable. If you just explain yourself better, if you just make them understand how much you care, things will change. So you have the conversation. You tell them you feel unappreciated. You tell them you need more effort. You tell them you're tired of being the only one trying. And they listen, they nod, they apologize. They promise to do better, and for a few days, maybe a week, things improve. But then it slides back. The texts get shorter again. The effort fades again. The cycle repeats. And you're confused because they agreed with you. They said they understood, but nothing actually changed. Schopenhauer would tell you that words are not reality. Promises are not actions. And people do not change because you explained your feelings. They change when the cost of not changing becomes too high. As long as you stay, as long as you continue to provide attention, affection, and validation regardless of how they treat you, there is no cost. There is no consequence. You've shown them that you'll tolerate the behavior. You've shown them that your boundaries are negotiable. And once they know that, once they've tested the limits and found there are none, your words become noise. They don't take you seriously because you've taught them they don't have to. Every time you express disappointment but still show up, you reinforce the pattern. Every time you say, I need more, but accept less, you communicate that your needs are optional. Every time you threaten to leave but don't, you show them that your threats are empty, and they adjust accordingly. Not because they're cruel, but because you've trained them to treat you this way. You've trained them to see your complaints as temporary discomfort rather than real consequences. And as long as the relationship continues on their terms, they have no reason to change. This is the second reversal. Explaining your value does not increase it. Defending your worth does not prove it. The moment you have to argue for your importance, you've already lost. Because importance is not discussed, it's assumed, and it's enforced through action, not explanation. When you go silent, when you pull back, when you stop being available, you stop negotiating, you stop explaining, you stop begging for the effort you deserve. And in that absence, they're forced to confront the gap you left. That's when perception shifts. That's when value is recalibrated, not because you explained it, but because they felt the loss of it. You're watching them interact with other people, and it bothers you, not because they're doing anything wrong, but because they're giving others the energy they no longer give you. They laugh at someone else's jokes. They respond to someone else's messages immediately. They make time for someone else's plans, and when you bring it up, they tell you you're overthinking. They tell you you're insecure. They tell you you're insecure. They tell you you're imagining things. And maybe you start to believe them. Perhaps you begin to think the problem is you. You're too sensitive, too needy, too demanding. But you're not. You're just noticing the reality they don't want you to see. Schopenhauer understood that people do not treat everyone the same. They treat people according to the value they assign them. And that value is not fixed. It's fluid. It changes based on perception, availability, and how much effort they believe they need to invest to keep you. When they see you as high value, when they see you as someone who could leave, who has options, who does not need them, they invest, they pursue, they try. But the moment they see you as locked in, as committed, as someone who will stay regardless, the investment drops. Not because they stop caring, but because they no longer feel they have to compete. You're not losing their attention because you're less attractive than you were. You're losing it because you've removed the tension. You've removed the uncertainty. You've made yourself safe, and safety, while comfortable, is not exciting. It's not compelling. It does not trigger desire. What triggers desire is the fear of loss, the awareness that you could disappear, the knowledge that your attention is not guaranteed. And the moment you remove that awareness, the moment you make yourself fully available, entirely predictable, fully committed, without requiring the same in return, you become part of the background. You become expected, and what is expected is not valued. This is the third reversal. The more secure they feel in your commitment, the less effort they will invest. Security does not breed appreciation. It breeds complacency. And complacency breeds resentment. Not towards you necessarily, but towards the routine, towards the predictability, towards the absence of challenge. They don't wake up grateful that you're loyal. They wake up bored that you're certain. And that boredom, over time, turns into irritation, into the distance, into quiet resentment. The solution is to pull back, to match their energy, to stop initiating, to stop trying. And you do. For a few days, maybe a week. You go silent. You stop texting. You stop making plans. And you wait. You wait for them to notice. You wait for them to reach out. You wait for them to show you the effort you've been giving them, finally. But nothing happens. Days pass. Then a week. Then two. And the silence continues. And now you're hurt. Now you're confused. Because you thought pulling back would make them miss you. You thought distance would remind them of your value. But instead, it just confirmed what you fear. That they're fine without you. That they don't need you the way you need them. And the realization breaks something inside you. But here's what you're missing. Pulling back is not a strategy. It's a test. And if you pull back with the expectation that they'll chase you, you're still operating from their frame. You're still seeking their validation. You're still making their response the measure of your worth. And that's why it doesn't work, because they can feel it. They can think that your silence is not real distance. It's a tactic. It's a bid for attention disguised as withdrawal. And tactics are not powerful. Tactics are manipulations. And manipulations are weak. Schopenhauer did not advocate for games. He advocated for clarity. For the acceptance of reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. If someone does not value you, pulling back to make them value you will not work, because value is not created by absence, it's revealed by it. If they don't reach out, if they don't notice, if they don't care, that is not a failure of your strategy. That is information. That is reality showing you where you actually stand. And the robust response is not to go back, not to explain, not to try harder. The strong response is to accept the information and act accordingly, to stop investing in people who do not invest in you, to stop waiting for reciprocity from people who have shown they will not provide it. This is the fourth reversal. Silence is not a tool to make them chase you. It's a filter to see if they were ever chasing at all. Most people are not being withheld from you. They're simply not choosing you, and the longer you wait for them to choose differently, the longer you remain in a position of powerlessness. You think you're being patient. You think you're being understanding, but what you're actually doing is negotiating with someone who has already made their decision. And that negotiation is one-sided. You're offering more time, more chances, more explanations, and they're offering nothing but the possibility that maybe someday they'll try harder. That possibility is not a relationship. It's a cage. You've noticed that the people who care the least seem to be loved the most. The ones who don't text back, the ones who cancel plans, the ones who are inconsistent, unpredictable, and emotionally unavailable. Those are the ones people obsess over. Those are the ones people chase. And it doesn't make sense to you because you've been taught that love rewards goodness, that love rewards effort, that love rewards consistency. But that's not what you see. What you see is the opposite. The people who give the least receive the most, and the people who provide the most are taken for granted. Schopenhauer would tell you that this is not a flaw in human nature, it's a feature. Human beings are driven by will, by desire, by the pursuit of what they do not have. And what they do not have is inherently more valuable than what they do. Not because it's better, but because it's scarce. The person who is always available is not scarce. The person who always responds is not mysterious. The person who always gives is not a prize. They're a guarantee, and guarantees are not pursued. They're assumed. They're taken for granted. They're resented for being too easy. This doesn't mean you should become cold. It doesn't mean you should withhold affection to manipulate desire. It means you should stop giving to people who do not reciprocate. It means you should stop making yourself endlessly available to people who only reach out when it's convenient for them. It means you should stop treating your attention, your time, and your energy as if they have no cost, because they do. Every moment you spend on someone who does not value you is a moment you're not spending on someone who would. Every ounce of effort you pour into a one-sided dynamic is effort you're stealing from yourself. This is the fifth reversal. People do not resent you for being difficult. They resent you for being easy. The moment you require nothing, you communicate that you are worth nothing. And once that perception is set, no amount of effort will change it. You cannot outgive someone into respecting you. You cannot out-sacrifice someone into valuing you. You cannot outlove someone into loving you back. Because love, real love, is not a response to effort. It's a response to presence, to frame, to the calm certainty that you are not negotiable. You look around and see people in relationships who look happy. You see couples who seem balanced, who seems equal, who seem genuinely to respect each other, and you wonder why your relationships don't look like that. You wonder what you're doing wrong. But what you're not seeing is the history. You're not seeing the boundaries that were set early. You're not seeing the moments where one person pulled back and the other adjusted. You're not seeing the frame warfare that happened beneath the surface, invisible to outsiders, but absolutely critical to the dynamic. Every healthy relationship you see is built on mutual respect, and mutual respect is built on mutual consequence. Both people know that if they stop trying, the other person will leave. Both people know their positions are not guaranteed. Both people understand that effort is required, not optional. That knowledge, that awareness, that low-level tension is what keeps the dynamic alive. It's what keeps both people invested. It's what prevents resentment from building. But in your relationships, that tension doesn't exist. You've made it clear that you will stay regardless. You've made it clear that your love is unconditional. And unconditional love, while it sounds noble, is functionally powerless. Because if someone knows you will accept anything, they will give you anything. Or worse, nothing. They will test the limits. They will push the boundaries. They will see how little effort they can provide while still keeping you around. And every time you stay, every time you accept less, You train them to give you even less next time. Schopenhauer described love as a trap, a biological imperative wrapped in poetic language. And once the trap is sprung, once the bond is formed, the poetry fades. What remains is reality, and reality is not romantic. It's transactional, it's strategic, it's governed by power, by leverage, by who needs whom more. And if you are always the one who needs more, you will always have less control. You will always be the one making concessions. You will always be the one feeling the quiet resentment of being undervalued. The resentment you feel is not irrational. It's not insecurity. It's not neediness. It's your nervous system telling you that the relationship is imbalanced, that you're giving more than you're receiving, that you're being taken for granted. And instead of listening to that signal, instead of enforcing boundaries, instead of walking away, you suppress it. You tell yourself you're being patient. You tell yourself relationships take work. You tell yourself love is a sacrifice. And all of those things can be true. But they're only valid when both people are sacrificing and working, when both people are patient. When it's one-sided, it's not love, it's servitude. You've been taught that walking away is giving up, that leaving is a failure, that real love fights for the relationship, no matter what. But real love also requires respect, and respect requires boundaries, and boundaries require the willingness to enforce consequences. If you are not willing to leave, you are not powerful. You are not respected. You are tolerated, and toleration is not love. It's convenient. It's comfort. It's the path of least resistance. And the moment someone finds a more convenient, more comfortable, less resistant path, you will be replaced. Not because you weren't good enough, but because you were too available. This is not cruelty. This is not cynicism. This is realism. Schopenhauer did not write to comfort you. He wrote to expose the mechanisms beneath the surface, to show you that the feelings you think are sacred are often just biology, just conditioning, just patterns repeating across generations because no one stopped to question them. And once you see the pattern, once you understand the mechanism, you cannot unsee it. You can only choose how you respond. You have a choice now. You can continue operating the way you have been. You can continue giving without requiring reciprocity. You can continue waiting for people to change. You can continue explaining your worth to people who have already decided you're not worth the effort. Or you can accept the information in front of you. You can assume that not everyone will value you. You can imagine that some people will take everything you offer and still resent you for providing it. And you can walk away, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in clarity. Walking away is not punishment. It's boundaries. It's the enforcement of your own value. It's the refusal to participate in dynamics that drains you. And the moment you walk away, the moment you stop being available, the moment you stop negotiating, two things happen. Either they realize what they lost and adjust, or they don't. And both outcomes are information. Both outcomes are clear. If they change, you've reset the frame. If they don't, you've freed yourself from a dynamic that was never going to balance. Most people will not adjust. Most people will let you go because they were never holding on tightly in the first place. And that hurts. It hurts to realize you were more invested than they were. It hurts to realize the love you thought was mutual was mostly one-sided. But that hurt is necessary. That hurt is clarity. That hurt is the beginning of power. Because once you stop expecting people to value you the way you value them, once you stop waiting for reciprocity that will never come, you reclaim your attention. You reclaim your energy. You reclaim your frame. Here's your challenge. Identify one person in your life who consistently takes more than they give. One person who only reaches out when they need something. One person who makes you feel like you're always chasing, always explaining, constantly proving, and go silent. Not as a tactic, not as a game, but as a boundary. Stop initiating, stop explaining, stop making yourself available, and watch what happens. Most likely, nothing will happen. They won't reach out. They won't notice. They won't care, and that silence will tell you everything you need to know. And if that hurts, sit with it. Don't run back. Don't rationalize. Don't make excuses for them. Just sit with the reality that you're giving to someone who is not giving back. And let that reality reshape how you move forward. Let it inform who you invest in. Let it teach you that your attention is not infinite, that your energy is not free, that your presence is not something people deserve by default. It's something they earn. And if they're not earning it, you walk. If this hit you, if you felt it, if you recognized yourself in these patterns, do something about it. Don't just consume this and move on. Let it change how you operate. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you want more of this clarity. And write, "I am the strategist" once in the comments, just to mark the day your mindset changed. You don't need to announce your shift. You don't need to explain it. You don't need permission. You just stop participating in dynamics that cost you more than they return. You stop being the one who always bends. You stop accepting breadcrumbs and calling it love. You enforce your value through distance, through silence, through the willingness to walk away. And in doing so, you stop being the person people take for granted. You stop being the person who quietly resents. You become the person who commands respect, not because you demand it, but because you require it. Schopenhauer showed you the mechanism. Now you decide what you do with it.